Howdy y'all, welcome back to Rat's Nest Hot Rods. We are going to install this Kwik Wire full harness kit in the 1966 AMC Rambler of my friend Ray. He is going to be popping in here and getting an education on how to do some wiring in a car, so figured I'd open this box for you and show you what's inside. This kit is awesome. Every wire is labeled. Comes with a lot of connectors. If you're doing one of their universal kits where you're kind of custom fitting it to a car, then it kind of gives you everything you need. You are going to need some quick disconnect splices and things like that, and heat shrink and things to make it work. But yeah, I figured this would be a good video to show off this harness. I've done a few of these, and can anybody do it? Yeah, I think so. I think it helps to have some basic electrical theory knowledge. I, in a prior life, was a commercial journeyman electrician out here in Seattle, working with AC current as opposed to DC, but electricity and the theory are pretty much the same. A little different on how things flow from negative to positive, or positive to negative on DC, I should say. And yeah, I think anybody can do it. The instruction book is very, very, very good. Here's a bunch of the connectors. You can see there in the box, that's the 14 circuit kit. I put a 24 circuit kit in the Cadillac before I tore it back apart. And everything about these things are quality. You see the switch on the left there? That is a theft deterring disconnect switch, which I probably shouldn't be showing off on YouTube, but hell, it's on their website. And you can remote locate that anywhere. You can leave it on the fuse box, whatever you want, and basically disconnects the power to the ignition coil. So when you turn the car over, you say you got a thief in there, and he's able to turn the car over like it's going and going and going, but he doesn't know why it won't start, rather than turning the key or shorting it out so that you can get the car to turn over and start, and nothing happens. Then the thief automatically knows that quite obviously you have a hidden switch somewhere, which they will try to find. Maybe, I don't know, seems like a lot of work to me, but if you got a nice car and it's worth several $1,000s, then something to think about. Here's some of the labeling on the wires. Everything is really good quality as far as copper wiring, and I feel that the gauge size is a little on the large size for a lot of things, which is nice. You don't want to burn that car down that you are spending all this time block sanding and repairing, doing all that mechanical work, and then you leave the old shitty harness in there and it burns your car to the ground, which I'm sure you've seen one or two of those at a car show, or leaving a car show, or going to a car show, and it's on the side of the road on fire. And I do see those in Craigslist quite a bit. It does happen, and going with this modern ATO fuse is awesome. Here's like each one of those bundles has a page associated with it, and this one's the headlight switch H2 group. It'll be labeled that way, and it'll show you, you can see kind of that bold writing at the top there, what everything's going to connect to. The wiring diagrams are very simple. Like I said, some basic knowledge of how a relay works and things like that. Put a link to a really good Automotive electrical book. It's probably like 100 pages long, and it's kind of industry standard, the best book to read if you're trying to learn how to wire stuff. So there you go. It's got its own bracket on the back, which I modify so it'll work in the car. There's the fuses, 12 circuits, 2 relays and 2 flashers. I always change those flashers out to a LED capable flasher. If you use those and you go all LED in the car, your turn signals and things won't work. So it's not your wiring, it's that relay. It needs a certain amount of wattage pulled through it to be able to store up that capacitance and hit those flasher signals. So I think we'll wrap up the little box demo here, and if I can put this damn cover back on this thing, and we'll start going through. This is not a real good how-to video, and for the guys that do those videos, I commend you. that takes a lot of freaking time. But I did film most of the electrical wiring, and I think that maybe you'll enjoy it, maybe you'll get something out of it, and I'll pop in here 4 or 5 times when something comes up that might be helpful to somebody that's installing one of these kits. The Kwik Wire company does make kits specifically. Sorry about that siren, I live in the hood down here in Tacoma. They do make vehicle specific kits, like if you're doing, like, I know a lot of you guys are doing like the Camaro, the Chevelle, the Mustang, right on down the line on all the real popular cars. They make kits that are just going to basically drop right in and you can wire it up. If you got something like a Cadillac, or you got a Rambler or something that's not the usual restoration, then you got to do these universal kits. These are the quick disconnects I use. They've got heat shrink on them, and these are the waterproof. They've got like this gel in it that oozes out once you heat them up. And I put this on anything that you might want to take back apart. I'm a guy that doesn't ever stop working on the car, so I like to have these in there. So I put them strategically in other people's cars in case they want to work on something. Yank out a headlight harness or something like that. So that's something you got to do yourself, and kind of think about as you're going. A lot of people, and I will solder in positions where I think it's necessary, but I do like to keep the flexibility there for the future. Generally, these cars will come back and we'll want to add something in, and it really saves on labor, and I think you're getting just as good of a connection as you are with soldering, and you don't have people in the future that are duct taping shitty wiring wrapping around your wiring harness, blowing up your car, because they have something to connect to, and it's nice and easy. I'm going to speed this up because I think this is the most I've ever talked in a video, and play some music, and we're going to rock and roll. You can see throughout the video that new iView headlamp that I'm wearing, and how good the light put out is for it. And yeah, like I said in the previous video, I don't use the hands-free option because every time you reach into the dash, the damn light turns off. But it does broadcast a ton of light and is awesome. A couple of tips before we go to music. I always cut the wire, leave about 3, 4, 5, 6 inches off of every device that I pull out of the vehicle, so that I can go back and look at how it was hooked up, and it'll also have the connector on it. So I delicately demolish, remove stuff that, yeah, see, there's a splice with no solder, just twisted up and thrown in the dash. That's what burns your car up. But what I was saying was cut some wires, leave them there so you can see them. Sometimes the coloring helps. Order up the wiring harness for your particular car, or not the wiring harness, the circuit diagram for your particular car. There's a company that I'll put a link to. I think it's Custom Color Circuit Harness Company that makes them for everything. I got one for a Cadillac and it looks like a friggin' rainbow shit on the paper, but for this AMC it's a lot easier, and it is helpful to kind of go back and forth between the Kwik Wire diagram and the original harness itself. You'll find how many times your car has been screwed with over the years when you get one of those, and it'll come in handy, trust me. All right, music time. Bye.
Saw her lover's face disappear into blue static.
most of the demolition is done, as you say in the construction industry. Like I said, careful demolition at the device, and then the harness and stuff you can just yard out of there and throw in the garbage, and you'll see just how close you were to burning your car up. We're going to build a bracket for the fuse panel right now, and that is a necessity, at least on the cars that I've worked, because it's quite a bit larger than what comes out of the car. So find a spot in there and then bend you up a little bit of 16 gauge steel, and that's what we're going to do right now. Throw it in the 3-in-1 and then get that thing mounted up, and we're going to put the harness in the car, but you guys all know how to do this part. But yeah, don't feel like you got to make it fit in the position the old one was. Save yourself some time. Use the mounting holes maybe that were there for the original fuse panel, and make a bracket, 90-degree bracket or whatever you need, 180-degree bracket to hang your new fuse panel. All right, back to the music. You gotta love yourself before you let yourself take you to the shine. Your love is dead. There's a lot of crazy people selling a lot of real pretty things, and I'm real hungry. I'm buying up whatever they bring. I hear a nursery rhyme break into fragments of noise. That singer, he's gonna sing that song. They don't have a voice, have a voice. Hey, tell me now. Here's something else I like to do that I think is helpful. I unroll each roll. You want to keep the zip ties in that are in close to the fuse panel, because the wire's kind of jumping around in there to make circuits work. And if you don't get in there, then that's less theory that you have to know. Yes, must be Pantera playing on the radio here to make that happen to my head. Don't pay any attention to that, but I think this helps, and you'll see Ray and I string all these out and make sure the lengths, make sure there's no slack in certain wires and then tight on another wire, because when you start pulling it through the car, it can be a bit of a bitch if you leave those in there. Then you nick a wire, then you short something out, then you're freaking out when you're trying to get things going. You know how it goes, I'm sure, if you've worked with any electrical in your life. So we'll take the time to do that, and yeah, when I play some music, you guys sit back and watch the world's most boring video. And but I do hope that some of these tips work out. I'll strategically put some black tape on these to hold the ends into the harness. Yeah, Pantera is definitely playing on the radio. And then we'll throw those through the car and out the other door so that they're kind of out of our way, and then work through every single one in the harness. One thing that is really helpful on this job is getting a Ray. I picked Ray up at Harbor Freight, and he's been really helpful.
sells concepts. I lean out in the doorstep and inhale the scene up and down the street. If the country rocker ain't got no stories, he's gonna have to drive a taxi cab. If the disc job hawker ain't got no 40s.
As you saw earlier with the book, one real nice thing about these harnesses, they're grouped and labeled. So the next part that you want to do after you've mounted the fuse box, fuse panel, and strung all your wiring out, you can see the black tape there kind of laid out, is get the harnesses where they're supposed to be individually throughout the whole car, get it all done at once, and then we can start dropping back, take one wire at a time. I like to take one wire off if it's something I've never done before. Take one wire off the device, put one wire on. That way, like I said earlier, leave some tails on there, some 6-inch tails if you got crazy alternator, generator with remote this and that. Sometimes it's helpful, and then obviously if there's some aftermarket stuff we got in there. Like this one's got some crazy ass air conditioning system that is freaking old and doesn't really work well, but it is helpful to kind of have that stuff on there. It's outside the scope of the normal circuit diagram on the Kwik Wire and on the original stock diagram, so keep that in mind. I think it's a really good tip, and that way you still got a piece of wire there and you kind of think back how it went. And I did the other thing I used to do was take one wire out of the old wire and put in one new wire, and I got about halfway through a car and then decided that was ridiculously overdone. So now I do it the clip and rip and start hooking things up one at a time. I also have a lawnmower battery that I will test things, and you'll see that coming up here too. I do recommend that as well. So you can test items in the car as you're putting together. You can test your wiring if you understand what it's supposed to be doing and you've got the things spliced in the right place.
Pound it from a paper bag, and the spaceship amphetamine is coming in the land. Beck and Leonard Cohen sit together hand in hand. Get this. You say you just got in from L.A. with the dopest beats around. This pale face come and steal the day with the old school you never found. Yes, the urban hickeys come down with the modern sound. He's gonna work it out, work it out. Over the fields with a voice that is surreal, past through streets misunderstood by everyone he meets. The Reservoir Girl was so easy, the coronation of the Vegas king. No one looks so trashy like you do. It takes a nation of robots to hold me back. Then I'll go down like a president. You fall like Alice in the gender gap. Then you're the drifter, not the resident. And Robin Hood never was so
Okay, all the individual harnesses are run, and I'm going to drop a lawnmower battery in here to start testing individual lights and fans and things like that in the car, just to see if that the light fixture itself works. You have these old pigtails from the factory that was kind of a quick connect setup already, and I like to test that out. And what we found on the Rambler was the ground was intermittently making connection. It relies on the base of the fixture and making good contact with the body. So I'll show you how to throw some jumpers on in the future to kind of eliminate that problem. And yeah, so we'll tease the next video here. We're going to start landing all the wires. We'll do a compression check and some other things in the next video, and then we'll send Ray and Ellie, the 1966 AMC Rambler, on its way home so that he can finish up his project. Thanks for the likes and the subscriptions. If you guys are going to do a wiring harness, I'm here to help. Shoot the questions over, and I'll do my best to help you. Talk to you on the phone, whatever is necessary to get you through your project. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for all the comments and subscriptions. What else do I have to say? Oh yeah, peace and grease, sucker.